Good afternoon. My name is Michael Fitch, and welcome to the very first ever Tasso video blog. We're excited about this. We think this is a great way that we can improve communication with our members, that we can bring other people in the officiating world onto the show to talk about officiating issues. One of the things that we're going to be doing is highlighting all 6 of our sports as we get close to their season. And I can't think of a better way to start it than the very first sport, which begins play, and that's volleyball. And with me on the phone, I have Shelley Whitty, who is the president of Tasso Volleyball. Welcome, Shelley.
Thank you, Mike. Glad to be here.
All right. So not only is volleyball the very first sport that gets started, you guys are actually starting this week. You kind of kick off with the Texas High School Girls Coaches Association All-Star Matches. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, we're getting busy this week. We have a number of things. First of all will be the 1 through 4A All-Star Match. That will be tomorrow evening, July 9th. And then on Wednesday, we have the 5 through 6A All-Star Match. We have 4 officials coming from around Texas. They are chosen from different districts, and each district has a chance to officiate because this is on a rotation basis. We will also have other officials participating, calling the lines for our matches. They will be provided from the Dallas and the Fort Worth chapter. We are very happy to have these officials because they volunteer their time and skills, and this definitely helps the student athletes of volleyball.
That's great. Well, I know Tasso and volleyball have a great relationship with Sam Tipton, Lee Gresham, and the other folks over there at Texas Girls Coaching Association, so we're excited for that.
Sure do.
We also have another event coming up this week, and that is the Tasso Volleyball Statewide Annual Meeting. So let's discuss that a little bit.
Yes, it is. We're happy to say we already have 640 pre-registered members. It's going to be held at the Marriott Waterway in the Woodlands. The actual meeting for our members in continuing education requirement is Saturday, July 13th, and that starts at 8:30 a.m. in the morning. First Friday, we'll have a board meeting. In the afternoon, we'll be meeting with our chapter officers and just having an open discussion about any chapter issues and some other things with helping them maybe figure out the best way to train their new officials and kind of continuing training for their veteran officials.
Okay, great. And I understand we've got a couple of special guests coming in for the meeting.
We sure do. I am so excited, and I know the whole board is. We're going to have Joan Powell and Mike Pereira. They will be having a special discussion with our first and second year officials on Saturday morning, and then we will be having a panel discussion in the afternoon during the general session, just covering a wide range of subjects, and looking forward to it very much.
It is going to be exciting, and we are fortunate to have both Joan and Mike with us today. Hello, Joan and Mike.
Hello, hi, Michael. Good to be with you. Hi, Shelley.
Hi. Thanks again for your help and your participation. I know the first and second year members will hear some things and be motivated, and it's an experience I don't think they'll soon forget, because I know I've listened to both of you speak and have gone away. I feel uplifted as a person and also as an official. So thanks again.
Well,
All right.
I know it's our pleasure, and to me, it doesn't make any difference what sport it is. I mean, it's all officiating, and it's a fraternity that we all exist in. And I kind of got involved in volleyball last year here in Sacramento, and I learned about R1 and R2. I learned I'd rather be R1 than R2. R2's got too much to do, but I really found the group of volleyball officials here in Sacramento to be a terrific group who worked hard at their skills at this, and so I'm really excited about being.
So, Joan,
Fantastic.
we're excited about having you. If you're the volleyball official, you certainly know the name Joan Powell. She is nationally recognized, and I've got a list of the awards for both Joan and Mike, but it would take all day to read them, so I'll skip that. So, Joan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. First of all, I'm pleased to be asked to come to Texas to address your group of 600 plus officials and be on the same stage with Mike Pereira. And Mike just alluded to speaking to a group in Sacramento, and he called beforehand to try to make sure he was well prepared. And he's correct in saying that officiating is officiating, and yet he wanted some nuances so that he would be smart in front of those volleyball people. So I'm anxious to share that stage. And as far as my background is concerned, started from an officiating class in college, moved on to CYO, so little kids playing, all the way to high school, all the way to college, and USA volleyball. So right now I am back in the fold with high school, and for the past 4 years have been officiating at the high school ranks. Because of my job, I'm unable to referee volleyball at the collegiate level, but I'm happy to be involved in the leadership here in Colorado Springs, and again, really excited to make this trip to Texas to share with your folks.
Great. And Mike, I guess kind of you're like the rest of us. You got started working junior high and high school, and kind of started your journey that way.
Yeah, I mean, I actually started mine because I needed $30 on a Sunday. That's why I started, and went to Pop Warner football games in Palo Alto. Paid $10 a game, $10 a game, 3 games, $30 a pass. It's all the money I needed for beer money. That's how I started.
Okay. And Mike, we're having a little bit of trouble hearing you, so you might lean forward to that microphone, if you will. I know we've all had help as we moved up through the ranks. So did you have, this question for both of you, did you have someone that was especially a mentor to you and you got started and got you going? Joan, how about you going first?
Sure. I mentioned the fact that I took a class in officiating, so I would have to honor my volleyball coach at the University of Arizona, also the one that introduced me to officiating through a course. And she was very instrumental in allowing me to realize that the passion that I had for playing could continue well after my playing days. And so I owe it to her. It's quite a tribute to her being able to coach a group that, by the way, we qualified for the national championship our sophomore year, but we're unable to go to the championship because we had no money. There was no funding, and our administrator went to the president of the university, and we were told that we were unable to go. So I knew then that playing was over after I graduated, and yet was able to continue by coaching and by officiating.
Okay, Mike, who's special in your career that got you started?
You know, I would have to say my dad, probably, because he was an official. You know, I didn't play the game. I went to high school and I was 145 pounds, and the first day of contact drills, somebody hit me in the hip, and the next day I was shooting and so I never really played, but I learned the game through the eyes of an official. My dad, you know, moved up the ranks and got as as high as major college football, the Big West Conference. I saw it through his eyes, and in some ways it turned me off to officiating because I saw the abuse that he was getting. And it really, if I had any appetite at that time, and we're talking about the time that I was in school at Santa Clara, it really kind of made me not interested in doing this. And it wasn't until I needed that $30 that, I went out on the field. And it was then that I realized, what my dad felt about fishing, why he was so committed to it, because my juices started to flow. My adrenaline charge was unbelievable. And that first day that I officiated, I looked horrible. I had long hair. I had knickers that didn't fit. I had an old broadcloth shirt. But being on the field trying to adjudicate fairness, little kids running around and parents yelling at me from the sidelines, just to me, made the whole officiating thing a unique endeavor. And that's when I fell in love with it. So it really was, in some ways, with my dad.
Mike, what other sports have you officiated?
Well, I officiated basketball. And I said, for me, and I don't say this with any disrespect to anyone, including my friends in football, basketball to me is the toughest sport to officiate. And so I told everybody when I was in the NFL, anytime a young official came to me and said, what do I do to become a better football official? I said the same thing to everybody, which was go officiate basketball for 3 years. That's exactly how long I did. It was a great lesson learning how to handle fans, coaches, players, along with having thousands of decisions every time somebody ran up and down the court. So I did that 3 years. Didn't do baseball because I played baseball at Santa Clara. I really didn't like it. So I never did baseball after that. But basketball was.
Joan, what about you? Have you officiated other sports?
Well, actually, while I was in college to have a summer gig, not necessarily for beer money, Mike, but I did officiate softball. And so when I moved to Colorado Springs from Arizona, I pursued officiating in the summer and moved all the way to men's fast pitch. And there were no females at the time, and I wasn't interested in taking over anybody's Rotary Club. My purpose was that I loved the game of softball and just wanted to continue. And so I did that for about 5 years. And, Mike Pereira, you hit it on the head. The fans, coaches, the whole idea of within a men's sport was, it could have turned me off. It could have certainly, I could have ended it. But I stuck with it. I loved it. And they engulfed me and realized, hey, you know what? Maybe she knows what she's doing and she's out here for the right purpose, and that's for the game. So the only other sport is softball, but I haven't done it in years.
Okay. Now, I know both of you get asked, what was your most memorable game? I'm going to switch it up a little bit. What was the best call you ever made, Joan?
Oh, my. Oh, that's a tough one. Seasoned officials remember some of the anxiety and the calls that I'll just give you, for instance, when I did make an error and I had to replay a point in a national championship, and the captain for Penn State came over, and I said, on live mic, I said, you know what? I really suck right now. I'm sorry, but I'm going to get this right. And it just came out. I looked for the microphone. I couldn't find it. Usually it's like a pencil microphone and you're able to cover it if you're speaking to a captain and you don't want anybody else to hear. But you leave it live if you want to engage the audience, maybe an educational, teachable moment, because you're right. And I couldn't find it to cover it, and it just came out so fast. That captain looked and just said, "Ah, you're all right. You're doing just fine." And anyway, it wasn't really a call. It was just an explanation that I made an error, and I'm going to pick it up now. But so that's the only thing that comes to my mind.
Well, we are human. What about you, Mike? What was your best call?
You know, I've always said, and that's Joan just kind of said it too, in some ways, that seasoned officials really don't remember their best call. They can tell you their worst call immediately because you never forget your mistakes, and oftentimes you'll go to your grave regretting the fact that the call that you missed. And when I think of my worst call and now try to come up with the best call, it's probably the same game. And it was my one and only playoff game because I wasn't on the field that long in the NFL, Kansas City and Denver in Kansas City. And in the fourth quarter at the end of the game, there was a pass to Tony Gonzalez that he went up for, got hit by a Denver player, and then landed either on or near the sideline. Was it a force out? Because those rules were applicable at that time. Was it a catch? And I was a second-year official. I was on the end line, and I looked toward my veteran head linesman on my side of the field that had been there, in the league for 20 years. And I looked at him first, and he gave me one of these. and I said, "Oh my God, I've got to do something." And so I ruled the pass incomplete, and it did have certainly a bearing in the game because Kansas City lost. And it was an interesting few minutes because there wasn't replay at that time, so you don't know if you were right or wrong. So when the game ended, as I was running off the field, somebody grabbed me and said, "Jerry Seaman said to tell you," he was there, he was the head of officiating, "that you were 100% right in your call."
Wow.
And so I became the proudest guy in the world at that point. I went from being the scaredest to the proudest that I got it right. So that maybe was my best at the biggest moment of a game being played on the stadium.
Well, you kind of led into my next question. Joan, what was the worst call that you'll never forget?
Yeah, well, that was it. I mean, that was, like Mike said, all in the same play. And, it was actually, was it a pancake down or not? So did the player get their hand under the ball, or did it in fact hit the floor? And I killed the ball right away thinking that it hit the floor, and I had nothing around me. I had seen a line judge out of the corner of my eye kind of move. He kind of, he didn't quite uncoil his flag, but I really thought he had it at the same time, and he didn't, kind of brought the flag back. So I had to go solo on it. I looked over at my second referee and, was pleading for help, called him over, and he said, no, the ball was up. And so I had to replay it. And all my buddies, including Mike, always tease about volleyball having that almighty replay, which they don't have. I mean, picture baseball, all of a sudden a player, gets a hit, runs to first base, and you call him out, and then you go, "Oh no, I'm not too sure." Once you go back up and bat again, there are no replays in any other sport, but we have this that we don't often use, but sometimes it's a savior. So the replay didn't bode real well with that captain, and thus the bad call turned into a good call, that she totally believed in me and realized that I was human and just went on her way after I explained it. So that probably is coupled in the same instance.
Okay. I want to get y'all's comments on a subject that's very sensitive to all of us in the officiating industry. I know we have the problem here in Texas, but I know it's nationwide. I know NASO, which I know both of you are very heavily involved with, is also addressing this problem. That's the shortage of officials that we have. And I know one of the factors, we all know, that one of the factors is the abuse that officials take from not only coaches and players, but fans on the court, on the field, sometimes in the parking lot. What can we do about this? Joan?
Well, it's a tough one because NASO does address the fact that the reason why we lose folks in the 1, 2, 3 years of officiating is because of fan and coach behavior. And, all the money in the world sometimes doesn't help the abuse that our officials are taking, and they turn away from it. My push right now is that we try to tap into um, the players pool, rather than what we're seeing on volleyball is football, basketball officials that can no longer run up and down the quarter field and want to stay involved in officiating. And Lord knows we need the bodies, and they come to us thinking this sport looks pretty easy, and we just have too much volleyball, which is a good thing. I just came from an event this last weekend with 1,200 teams in the Girls National Championship in USA Volleyball. I went to an event in Atlanta with, over 170 courts under one facility. So we're hurting on numbers. But I would like to see us tap into the player pool. Number one, they have a passion for the game, and my impetus would be to stay on the court. The second thing is they've been yelled at by the best, meaning the coaches that they've had. Certainly some grueling kinds of practices, some maybe fair, unfair coaches that they've had. But why can't we tap into the girls and boys that are playing right now and help us with the youthfulness and help us with our numbers? So I don't have an answer right now. We're going to speak to your new officials. And certainly we have to stroke them for staying within this great game, but we have to protect them too. So that comes from the administrators. And if anything happens, let's say in a high school setting, that administrator on duty has to be willing to get rid of that fan, or the seasoned official that's working with the young official be willing to toss that coach, that this is undesirable behavior. This is unacceptable in the game of volleyball, and you don't get to stay. And then it has to be coupled with, our assigner, and again with administrators, that they condone what we did, and they just keep disallowing these kinds of folks to ruin it for especially the new officials.
Those are all excellent points. We've kind of started the same route with the students. We have a program in Tasso called START, which is an acronym for Students Today or Referees Tomorrow. And we are challenging every varsity coach in every sport to provide us with the names of 3 of their graduating seniors that are not going to be playing at the next level, but that we can tap into and keep them involved. I think that's an excellent point. Mike, you have any other thoughts on that?
Well, it's a problem that we cannot ignore. That's the one thing, because we know the dramatic effect it has on the numbers. And so for the people that say to me, well, there's nothing we can do about it, that's not acceptable. I mean, we have to find different ways to recruit. And I think more so on the football level than any other. I might say it's maybe basketball and baseball too. I think we have to change the way that we actually do our business. I mean, here in Sacramento, you have to attend 7 classes that are 2 hours long at a high school in the middle of Sacramento. And for some people, that's a long way to go. And especially young people, they are not going to survive sitting in a classroom for an hour as I hang this up. Excuse me. But they're not going to respond to that. We need to get into video training and have meetings like that. But one thing we're going to try here in Sacramento, which I'm really anxious to see, and what the results get. We're going to come up with a program within a year that says if you want your kid to play youth sports, it's great. You know what? You have to commit to go to a 1-hour rules class. You as the parent. That seems simple enough. Yeah, but the twist to it is, not only do you have to agree to attend that class, but you have to officiate a minimum of 2 games. So we're going to put parents on the field, and 2 things could happen. They could actually just leave after 2 games and say, "Man, this was really tough. I'd never want to do this." and maybe they'd have a greater appreciation for those that are doing it. Or they actually might say, you know what, that was kind of fun. And it might, maybe I'll do this. Maybe after my kid moves beyond the youth level, I'll get involved because it was a kick in the pants being out there. So initiatives like that, where we can address sportsmanship issues and maybe help recruit some more officials, I think will help. But it's all of us just have to think outside the box. What can we do differently in the way we train, we recruit? Because the way it stands right now, it's just not good.
All excellent points. Very good points.
And Mike Fitch,
Yes.
I'm just going to add something. I have a role as an arbitrator for USA Volleyball, and that really deals with, I'm there for ethics and eligibility during these tournaments. But most of the time, we're dealing with poopy parents, let's be real. And so I get called to a court. But when I speak to the individual, at the end, I make them listen to me, and here's my point. You have just brought attention upon yourself, and your daughter's team, which by the way is 13 and under, and the opposing team and the work team have all just realized that the last place they ever want to be is either up on that stand or on the floor as an R2 or even as a line judge, because of your voice, your expectations of young folks being perfect. And we're going to lose a whole generation of people because of you, sir or ma'am, because you have just made a spectacle of yourself and have proven the point why we're aging out in officiating, because no one wants to take that step and be yelled at. So I'm going to ask you, sir, or ma'am, to please, maintain some semblance here and realize these are just humans coming out here working from 7 a.m. until sometimes 11 p.m. at night, getting maybe 8-9 matches in a row, having a little bit of break to turn in their scores and maybe grab a drink of water, and that's it. So I try to shame them, and then I welcome them. And you know what? As soon as your daughter is finished playing, we would be happy to teach you how to blow a whistle. So that's what I do.
That's a great point, a great approach. Very good. Well, I can't thank Joan and Mike enough for being with us today. We're really excited about having them join us at the Woodlands at the Marriott Waterway this weekend. And they're part of the Tasso family, so it won't be the last time we hear from them. If you have not registered for the volleyball meeting, if you're a volleyball official, the online registration has closed, but you can register on site. And if you're not a volleyball official, why not? Go to www.tasso.org. Upper right-hand corner says new member applicant. We'd love to have you. Thanks again, and in the future, we'll be talking about the football state meeting. We'll also be having guests from the UIL, Coaches Association, TAPS, and other officiating organizations. Thank you so much. Have a great day.